You think you're a legend? Kenji sneered, stepping forward with fire in his eyes. Let's see if your fist can match your fame. The dojo fell silent. Then Chuck Norris moved, calm, controlled, his first strike so fast it sliced the tension in half. The crowd gasped. Kenji's smirk faded. This wasn't just a fight, it was a masterclass. What happened next would redefine honor, discipline, and the true meaning of martial arts. Welcome to Chuck Norris Heroics. Let's uncover what really happened. The dojo was alive with energy, a mix of anticipation and excitement buzzing through the air like electricity. The walls, adorned with ancient calligraphy and trophies from countless competitions, bore silent witness to the countless battles fought within. In the center stood a young Japanese martial artist named Kenji, known for his sharp skills and unwavering confidence. His black belt gleamed under the bright lights as he paced the polished wooden floor, eyes sharp and voice steady. I've trained my whole life to be the best. No one here can match my speed or technique, Kenji declared to the assembled crowd, his tone carrying a mix of pride and challenge. The murmurs of agreement rippled through the spectators, many eager to see if his bold claims would hold true. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The doors opened quietly, and a man walked in with calm assurance. It was Chuck Norris, the legendary martial artist whose reputation needed no introduction. Years of championships, battles, and unparalleled mastery rested behind his steady gaze. Yet, Chuck said nothing, merely observing from the back of the room, his presence commanding respect without a single word. Kenji's eyes locked onto Chuck, and a smirk crept across his face. Unaware of the man's full legacy, Kenji felt a surge of daring energy. Stepping forward, he raised his voice loud enough for all to hear. If you think you're tough, then show us. Prove you have what it takes to face me. The room fell silent for a heartbeat. The crowd held its breath, waiting to see how the legend would respond. Chuck's face remained calm and unreadable, his expression revealing nothing. Without haste or fanfare, he took a slow step forward, his movements deliberate and measured, as if the weight of 1,000 battles rested in each step. The bold challenge had been issued, and the stage was set for something far beyond a simple fight. This was a meeting of true skill against youthful bravado, a clash that would test not only technique but honor, respect, and the heart of a warrior. Kenji's confidence filled the room like a blazing fire. With a slight bow to the crowd, he stretched deliberately, every movement precise and controlled, showcasing the years of discipline that had molded him into a formidable fighter. His eyes gleamed with a fierce determination as he turned back toward Chuck Norris, the legendary figure standing quietly in the corner. I've won 9 national championships in karate, Kenji announced loudly, his voice steady and proud. I've faced the best fighters Japan has to offer, and I've never been defeated. Tonight, I prove why. The spectators murmured in approval, some nodding in respect, others eagerly anticipating the confrontation. Kenji moved with a fluid grace as he began a series of intricate katas, a display of speed, balance, and technique that left no doubt of his talent. His strikes were sharp, his footwork swift, and his breathing steady. It was a demonstration designed not only to impress the audience, but to intimidate his opponent. Yet through it all, Chuck Norris remained still. His gaze never wavered, calm and unwavering. He watched with the quiet patience of a man who had long mastered both the physical and mental aspects of martial arts. There was no need to rush, no need to boast. His reputation was built on actions, not words. Kenji's smirk widened as he finished his performance, breathing lightly but proud. Now, legend, he said, stepping closer, show me what you've got. The room hummed with anticipation. Every eye was locked on the two men, one fueled by youthful confidence, the other tempered by decades of experience. Kenji's challenge was bold, but beneath his bravado, a subtle tension lingered. He was eager to prove himself, but a part of him also sensed that this fight would be unlike any he had faced before. Chuck Norris finally spoke, his voice low and steady. Skill isn't just in speed or power. It's in knowing when to strike and when to wait. His calm words settled over the room like a cool breeze, reminding everyone that the true test was just beginning. The atmosphere in the dojo shifted as Chuck Norris moved forward, his footsteps soft but purposeful against the wooden floor. There was no fanfare, no grand entrance, just the quiet confidence of a man whose presence alone spoke volumes. The crowd instinctively fell silent, sensing that something extraordinary was unfolding before them. Chuck's eyes scanned the room, settling briefly on the trophies and calligraphy that told stories of dedication and honor. Then, his gaze met Kenji's, sharp yet calm, measuring but not mocking. There was no rush to prove anything to the eager young fighter or the watching audience. Instead, Chuck's movements were deliberate, as if every step carried the weight of years spent mastering his craft. The younger martial artist's bravado flickered for a moment, replaced by a subtle recognition that this was no ordinary opponent. Chuck didn't speak, didn't taunt or boast. His silence was more powerful than words, a quiet challenge that demanded respect. As he took his place at the center of the dojo, Chuck's posture was relaxed but ready, an embodiment of discipline and control honed over decades. The room seemed to breathe with anticipation, every eye drawn to the legendary figure who had long been a symbol of true martial artistry. Kenji glanced around nervously, the earlier swagger tempered by the gravity of the moment. Yet, he forced a confident smile and nodded. "Show me your strength," he said, voice steady but tinged with the first real hint of respect. Chuck's lips curved into the faintest smile, acknowledging the challenge without the need for grand declarations. The tension thickened, a silent promise that this was not just a battle of fists and kicks, but a test of spirit, technique, and heart. In that quiet dojo, surrounded by centuries of tradition, the two warriors faced each other, one fueled by youthful ambition, the other by the steady power of experience. The stage was set, the moment had arrived, and all that remained was for the first move to be made. Word of the challenge had spread quickly, and now the dojo's modest size was filled beyond capacity. Spectators pressed against the walls, peering through doorways and windows, their voices low with excitement and curiosity. Friends, fellow martial artists, and local enthusiasts had gathered, drawn by the rare opportunity to witness a confrontation that promised to be unforgettable. Outside, a growing crowd spilled onto the street, unable to fit inside but eager to catch any glimpse or sound of what was happening within. Smartphones were raised, live streams started, and social media buzzed with anticipation. The air was thick with a mix of respect, skepticism, and the thrill of witnessing history in the making. Inside, the crowd's energy pulsed through the wooden beams, amplifying the tension between the two fighters. The spectators whispered among themselves, some questioning Kenji's boldness, others in awe of Chuck Norris's legendary status. Many had seen Chuck in films or heard tales of his undefeated streaks. Yet here, in the quiet dojo, his aura was more tangible, more real than any story. Children watched wide-eyed, imagining the epic battle unfolding. Elder martial artists nodded knowingly, appreciating the silent exchange of skill and honor. Cameras clicked, capturing every detail, from Kenji's determined expression to Chuck's calm, unreadable gaze. The dojo's master stepped forward briefly, offering a few words about respect and tradition before retreating to the sidelines. His presence reminded everyone that this wasn't merely a spectacle, but a meeting grounded in the deep roots of martial arts philosophy. As the moment to begin approached, the crowd fell into an expectant hush. Breaths were held, eyes focused intently. The line between spectator and participant blurred as the shared energy built toward a crescendo. In this charged atmosphere, two warriors stood ready, one with the fire of youth, the other with the wisdom of experience. The gathering crowd wasn't just witnessing a fight. They were part of a story that would be told for years to come. Kenji's confidence sharpened as the silence deepened around them. With a sharp breath, he stepped forward, eyes glinting with challenge. "You think you're some kind of legend?" he sneered, voice dripping with mockery. "I've studied harder, trained longer, and fought stronger opponents than you could ever imagine. His words echoed through the dojo, stirring a ripple of unease among the spectators. Some exchanged glances, sensing the youthful arrogance beneath the bravado. Kenji circled slowly, deliberately, taunting with a smirk that dared Chuck Norris to respond. "Your movies don't make you a fighter," Kenji continued, voice rising. "This is real. This is my world. If you want to prove yourself, you'll step up and show me." His tone was sharp, cutting through the respectful quiet that had settled moments before. Chuck Norris remained still, his expression unreadable, neither angered nor amused. The weight of his silence was heavier than any insult Kenji could throw. The crowd held its breath, waiting to see if the legend would take the bait. Instead, Chuck's calm gaze never faltered. Without a word, he took a measured step forward, closing the distance with quiet authority. It was a response more powerful than any retort, a clear signal that actions would speak louder than mockery. Kenji's smirk faltered for the briefest moment, the realization dawning that this was no ordinary opponent. Yet his pride would not allow him to back down. With a quick nod to the crowd, he squared his shoulders and readied himself. The dojo's air crackled with tension, the mockery hanging like a fragile veil over something far deeper, a test of true skill and spirit. What had begun as words would soon be settled by movement, strength, and honor. In that charged moment, the young martial artist challenge had ignited the spark, but the real fire was yet to come. Chuck Norris stood motionless, eyes steady and focused as Kenji's taunts echoed around the dojo. His calm presence seemed to absorb the tension rather than feed it, like a still lake untouched by ripples. Without a single word, Chuck watched the younger fighter closely, analyzing every movement, every shift in stance, every flicker of emotion. The room's noise faded into the background, leaving only the quiet rhythm of two warriors preparing for battle. Chuck's experience told him that true strength wasn't found in bluster or quick strikes, but in patience, awareness, and timing. His gaze was not just on Kenji's physical form, but on the spirit beneath, the confidence, the doubt, the hunger to prove oneself. Kenji moved with practiced precision, his body tense and ready. Yet beneath the surface, Chuck saw the flicker of uncertainty, the small hesitation that comes when bold words meet silent scrutiny. It was in these moments that fights were won or lost, not just by fists but by the mind. Chuck's breathing remained steady, controlled. His calmness was a shield, a weapon in itself. While Kenji's energy crackled with impatience and showmanship, Chuck's was quiet and unwavering, rooted in decades of discipline and countless battles fought both on and off the mat. The crowd sensed a shift. What had started as a loud challenge was now evolving into something deeper, a meeting of equals where respect would be earned, not demanded. Chuck's silent observation was a reminder that mastery was more than flashy moves. It was the wisdom to wait, to see, and to strike with purpose. As the seconds stretched, Chuck's calm presence seemed to fill the space, steadying not only himself, but the energy of the entire room. In that moment, it was clear the fight was not just about physical strength, but about who could command their mind and spirit first. With quiet assurance, Chuck prepared to answer the challenge, not with words, but with action. Kenji's eyes narrowed as Chuck's silent gaze held steady. Frustration began to simmer beneath his composed exterior. The crowd's tension thickened, waiting for the younger fighter to make the next move or say the next word. Unable to contain his impatience, Kenji stepped forward, voice sharp and edged with contempt. "You sit there like you own the room," he spat. "But I see through it. All that calmness, just a mask for fear." His words cut through the quiet like a blade, challenging not just Chuck's skill, but his very spirit. The insult hung in the air, igniting a spark that flickered behind Chuck's eyes. The crowd gasped softly, sensing the shift. Kenji had crossed a line, not with physical strikes, but with words aimed to wound the pride of a warrior who had long learned to guard his honor fiercely. Chuck remained still for a heartbeat longer, his expression unreadable. Then, without haste or anger, he took a deliberate breath, the calm returning to his features like the settling of a storm. The silence that followed was heavier, charged with unspoken challenge. Kenji's chest rose and fell quickly as adrenaline surged through him. He was ready to prove that his words weren't empty, that his fire wasn't just bluster. But deep down, beneath the bravado, a quiet respect was growing. Respect for the man who didn't rush to respond, who let his presence speak louder than insults. Around them, the crowd leaned in, caught between anticipation and awe. The insult had sparked more than anger. It had ignited a test of wills, a battle of control and precision that went beyond words or punches. Chuck's next move would set the tone for what was to come. And everyone knew that this wasn't just a fight for victory. It was a fight for honor. In that charged moment, the fire was lit, and the true test of strength was about to begin. The dojo seemed to hold its breath as tension thickened like a heavy fog, wrapping around the two warriors standing face to face. Every eye in the room was locked on them, sensing that the quiet moments before the first strike were more intense than any punch or kick that might follow. Kenji shifted his weight, muscles coiled and ready, eyes blazing with fierce determination. His chest rose and fell rapidly, fueled by adrenaline and the need to prove himself, not just to Chuck, but to everyone watching. The earlier bravado had transformed into a sharp focus, a readiness to match skill with action. Across from him, Chuck Norris remained calm, steady, a rock in the storm of youthful energy. His breathing was slow, deliberate, each breath a silent anchor grounding him in the moment. His eyes never wavered from Kenji's, reading every twitch, every subtle change in posture, every flicker of doubt or confidence. The crowd's murmurs faded into near silence, replaced by the rhythmic sound of two warriors preparing. The wooden floor beneath them seemed to pulse with anticipation, every creak amplified in the stillness. Even the air felt charged, electric with the promise of a battle that was about to erupt. Kenji's fists clenched tighter, the sharp scent of sweat and determination filling the space. He took a half step forward, testing the distance between them, muscles primed to explode. Chuck's stance remained relaxed but ready, a masterful balance of ease and power. Time seemed to stretch, the seconds slowing as the gap between them held the weight of possibility. In this suspended moment, the true nature of the fight revealed itself. Not just physical strength or speed, but the battle of minds and wills. The tension built steadily, a rising tide that neither man could ignore. And as the first move loomed just beyond reach, the entire dojo seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of two warriors about to clash, each driven by pride, discipline, and the unyielding spirit of a fighter. Kenji's eyes flashed with renewed intensity as the tension hung thick between them. He straightened, voice ringing out confidently across the silent dojo. "I'm the pride of my dojo," he declared, chest puffed with pride. "My strikes are faster than the eye can see, and my technique has been honed through years of relentless training. I have defeated opponents who thought themselves invincible." His words cut through the quiet like a sword, carrying both challenge and conviction. The spectators shifted, caught between admiration for Kenji's skill and curiosity about how Chuck Norris would respond to such bold claims. Kenji moved with swift precision, demonstrating a lightning-fast combination of punches and kicks. Each strike was sharp, calculated, and fluid, a testament to his discipline and skill. "Watch closely," he said, eyes locked on Chuck. "This is the power of true mastery." Yet, despite the speed and grace of Kenji's movements, Chuck remained unmoved, his expression calm and unreadable. His gaze didn't follow the showmanship, but instead settled on the man beneath the technique, the spirit driving the fight. Kenji's boast was not just about physical skill. It was a declaration of his identity, a statement that he would not be overshadowed. But beneath his confidence, there was an unspoken hope to earn the respect of a legend he barely understood. Chuck's silence was a quiet rebuke of empty words. He knew that real mastery came not from boasting, but from humility and the ability to adapt under pressure. The crowd felt this unspoken lesson settling over them like a tide. As Kenji paused, breathing steady but eager, the room awaited Chuck's reply, not just in words, but in the action that would soon follow. The young martial artist's boast had set the stage, but the true test of skill and honor was about to begin. Chuck Norris stood quietly, absorbing Kenji's swift display of skill and confident words. His eyes, steady and piercing, held a depth forged by decades of discipline and countless battles. Without haste, he lifted a calm voice that cut through the charged silence like a steady wind. "Speed and technique are only part of the fight," Chuck said, his tone measured and deliberate. "True mastery lies in patience, in knowing when to strike and when to wait." The crowd leaned in, drawn by the contrast between Kenji's fiery boasting and Chuck's quiet wisdom. His words weren't loud or flashy, but they carried weight, the weight of experience and understanding. Chuck shifted his stance subtly, muscles relaxed but ready, embodying the calm control he spoke of. "Strength isn't just in your fists or legs," he continued. "It's in your mind, in your spirit. Without those, skill is like a sword without a hand to guide it." Kenji's confident facade flickered for a moment, a shadow of doubt crossing his eyes. Yet he stood firm, listening closely. There was no arrogance in Chuck's voice, only clarity and a challenge that ran deeper than any physical fight. The dojo seemed to still further as Chuck's words settled over the room. It was more than a reply. It was a lesson, a reminder that martial arts were as much about self-control and respect as they were about power and speed. Chuck's measured response transformed the energy between them. The battle was no longer just about proving skill, but about proving character. Kenji, though young and bold, sensed that this fight would test more than just his techniques. It would test his heart. The moment stretched, the air heavy with unspoken understanding. Chuck's calm voice had shifted the tone. Now the real fight could begin, not just of bodies, but of wills. A heavy silence settled over the dojo after Chuck's calm words. The air was thick with anticipation, every eye fixed on the two men standing just feet apart. Kenji's jaw tightened, pride and determination warring within him. He knew this was the moment he had to prove himself, not just with words, but with action. With a steady breath, Kenji stepped forward, locking eyes with Chuck. "Words are easy," he said firmly. "But now it's time for a duel. No more talk. Let's see whose skill truly rules this dojo." The crowd stirred, the murmurs growing into whispers of excitement and awe. This was what they had come to see, a test of strength, speed, and spirit. The challenge was clear, and the tension electrified the room. Chuck nodded slowly, the faintest hint of a smile touching his lips. Without a word, he moved to the center of the dojo, positioning himself with effortless grace. His stance was relaxed but ready, every muscle coiled like a spring prepared to unleash. Kenji mirrored the movement, matching Chuck's composure as he took his place opposite him. The two men faced each other, the space between them charged with years of training, countless battles, and the unspoken code of honor that bound martial artists worldwide. The spectators quieted completely, the only sound the soft shuffle of feet and the collective heartbeat of anticipation. Both fighters breathed evenly, their focus absolute. Kenji's eyes burned with determination, yet beneath that fire was a growing respect for the calm, steady presence before him. Chuck's measured nod seemed to say, "Show me what you've got." The dojo had transformed from a place of challenge to an arena of respect. The call for a duel was more than a demand for combat. It was an invitation to prove not just skill, but character, discipline, and heart. In that charged moment, the stage was set. The duel would begin, and only one would walk away with honor. The room seemed to pulse with quiet energy as both fighters readied themselves for the imminent clash. Kenji took a deep breath, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline surge through his veins. Every muscle tensed, every nerve sharpened. Years of training had led to this moment, a test not only of strength and skill, but of spirit. He adjusted his stance carefully, feet grounded firmly on the polished wooden floor. His eyes never left Chuck Norris, whose calm presence contrasted sharply with the younger man's fiery intensity. Chuck's breathing was slow and even, a steady rhythm that seemed to steady the very air around him. Kenji flexed his fingers, recalling every lesson his masters had taught him. The importance of focus, balance, and patience. He knew that rushing in recklessly would be his downfall. Yet the excitement of the showdown pushed him to the edge of restraint. Across from him, Chuck silently centered himself. His body was relaxed but ready, every movement economical and precise. The years of championships and battles had honed his instincts to a razor's edge. His eyes flicked briefly toward the spectators, then back to Kenji, steady and unwavering. The dojo master watched quietly from the sidelines, nodding in approval at both warriors. The atmosphere was thick with respect, an unspoken understanding that this fight was more than a contest. It was a ritual, a sacred exchange between two martial artists who honored the discipline above all else. As the seconds ticked by, the crowd remained hushed, the only sounds the soft shuffle of feet and the measured breathing of the fighters. The tension built, electric and palpable, a charged silence before the storm. Kenji's heart pounded in his chest, but his mind was clear. The preparation was complete. The showdown was about to begin, a battle that would test their limits, reveal their true strength, and define their honor. In that moment, every spectator knew they were about to witness something extraordinary. The moment the duel began, it was clear this fight was more than physical. It was a clash of philosophies. Kenji moved first, his strikes sharp and fast, each one a testament to the modern training that emphasized speed, agility, and aggressive offense. His movements were bold, precise, and confident, driven by the energy of youth and the fire of ambition. Chuck Norris responded with a calm that spoke volumes. His style was deliberate, rooted in old-school wisdom passed down through decades of discipline. Every block, every counter was measured and purposeful, reflecting not just technique, but a deep understanding of timing and patience. Kenji's punches came in rapid succession, a flurry of energy designed to overwhelm. Yet Chuck absorbed and redirected, using minimal motion to deflect maximum force. It was like watching water flow around rocks, soft but unyielding, patient but powerful. The younger fighter's bravado fueled his every attack, his eyes burning with the desire to prove himself the superior fighter. But Chuck's steady presence was a silent reminder that strength was not always loud or flashy. Sometimes the greatest power came from restraint and knowing when to move. The crowd watched in awe as the two men exchanged blows, not just of fists and kicks, but of old and new. Kenji's aggressive style was thrilling to witness, a display of raw talent and modern technique. Chuck's response was a masterclass in control and experience, a demonstration that true mastery required balance between body and mind. For every rapid strike Kenji launched, Chuck offered a calm, calculated response. The dojo filled with the rhythm of their clash, sharp strikes met with smooth counters, energy met with wisdom. As the battle unfolded, it became clear this fight was not just about winning, but about respect. Respect for tradition, for innovation, and for the unbreakable spirit of martial arts itself. Old-school wisdom met new-school bravado, and in their meeting, something timeless was forged. The tension that had been building finally broke as Kenji launched forward with a lightning-fast strike aimed straight at Chuck's midsection. His fist sliced through the air with precision, a blur fueled by years of rigorous training and youthful confidence. The crowd gasped, leaning in as the first true clash of their duel erupted. Chuck met the attack with unwavering calm, shifting his weight just enough to deflect the blow without wasting energy. His forearm intercepted Kenji's fist, the impact sending a subtle shock through both fighters. But Chuck's movement was smooth, almost effortless, like a seasoned river flowing around a stubborn rock. Kenji pressed his advantage, following with a rapid combination of punches and kicks designed to overwhelm. Each strike was crisp and calculated, a display of speed and power meant to test Chuck's defenses. Yet, Chuck remained composed, parrying blows with measured responses that revealed years of experience and mastery. Their bodies moved in a dance of attack and defense, the sound of fists meeting forearms and feet striking the floor echoing throughout the dojo. Kenji's youthful aggression clashed against Chuck's seasoned patience, each testing the other's limits with every exchange. At one point, Kenji's kick aimed for Chuck's ribs, sharp and swift. Chuck countered with a subtle step aside, his balance steady as he seized the opening with a controlled palm strike to Kenji's chest. The impact was firm but respectful, a reminder that this fight was as much about honor as it was about strength. The crowd watched in rapt silence, captivated by the intensity and skill on display. The first clash had not only tested their physical abilities, but also set the tone for the battle ahead. For Kenji, it was a glimpse of the challenge before him, a fight that would demand more than speed or power. For Chuck, it was a chance to show that true mastery was found in control, timing, and respect. As they briefly separated, breathing steady, the dojo buzzed with anticipation. The first clash was over, but the real test was only just beginning. The exchange that followed was a breathtaking display of skill and power, each move executed with precision and intent. Kenji's attacks came faster now, a relentless storm of punches and kicks that pushed Chuck Norris to respond with equal grace and control. Kenji spun with a swift roundhouse kick, aiming to catch Chuck off guard. But Chuck, grounded and steady, anticipated the strike, stepping just enough to evade and countering with a sharp elbow aimed at Kenji's side. The contact was solid, sending a brief jolt through Kenji's body, but not enough to break his rhythm. Without missing a beat, Kenji recovered quickly, launching a rapid series of jabs to Chuck's shoulders and head. Each strike was precise, a testament to his training and determination. Chuck absorbed the blows with practiced ease, deflecting some, slipping others, always maintaining his balance and composure. The dojo echoed with the sounds of their battle, the sharp impacts of fists meeting flesh and the swift movements of feet sliding across the polished floor. The crowd was on edge, captivated by the artistry and intensity of the fight. Chuck responded with a powerful palm strike that met Kenji's guard, pushing him back just enough to create space. Then, with a fluid motion, he executed a spinning back kick that narrowly missed its target, but demonstrated his explosive power and impeccable timing. Kenji's eyes widened briefly in recognition of Chuck's skill, a flicker of respect igniting within his fierce determination. Despite his youthful energy and speed, he was facing a master whose experience allowed him to control the fight with subtlety and strength. Each fighter pushed their limits, testing the other's defenses, searching for an opening. The fight was more than physical. It was mental, a battle of wills as much as bodies. Their skill and power intertwined in a dance that held the room captive, a vivid reminder that true martial arts mastery was a balance of force, technique, and heart. As sweat glistened on their brows and breaths grew heavier, both warriors knew the fight was far from over. The greatest moments still lay ahead. Kenji staggered back, the unexpected force of Chuck's spinning back kick still reverberating through his body. His breath hitched, eyes wide with a mix of surprise and disbelief. He had trained for years, faced countless opponents, yet the sheer precision and power behind Chuck's strikes caught him off guard. For a moment, the young martial artist's confidence wavered. The brashness that had fueled his challenge now mingled with a growing respect for the man who moved with such quiet authority. Kenji's mind raced. This was no ordinary opponent. This was a legend, a master whose every move spoke of battles won and lessons learned. The dojo seemed to hold its breath as Kenji gathered himself, wiping sweat from his brow. His fists clenched tightly, determination rekindled but tempered by the realization that raw skill alone would not secure victory here. The shock was not just physical. It was a wake-up call, a challenge to his pride and his understanding of what it meant to be truly skilled. Around him, the crowd sensed a shift. Whispers of awe and admiration spread through the spectators as they watched Kenji confront this new reality. The fire of youthful bravado was now tempered by the humility that comes only from facing a greater force. Kenji squared his shoulders and met Chuck's steady gaze, the silent acknowledgement passing between them. This fight was no longer about proving himself the fastest or strongest. It was about learning, adapting, and earning respect. The martial artist's shock was the turning point. It was the moment when arrogance met experience, when confidence met wisdom, and when the true spirit of martial arts revealed itself. Kenji's next moves would reflect more than training. They would show growth, resilience, and the courage to face a challenge far beyond what he had imagined. The battle had deepened, and both warriors now stood on new ground, a place where respect and skill intertwined, ready to define the next chapter of their duel. Chuck Norris's eyes narrowed with focused intent as the fight deepened. The moment to reveal the full extent of his legendary techniques had arrived. With practiced ease, he shifted his stance, channeling decades of martial arts mastery honed through countless battles and relentless discipline. He launched forward, not with wild aggression, but with calculated precision. His movements flowed seamlessly, each strike, block, and counter a study in efficiency and power. Chuck's fists and feet moved like extensions of his will, delivering blows that carried the weight of experience and unparalleled skill. A sudden, lightning-fast palm strike targeted Kenji's chest, followed by a spinning heel kick that caught the younger fighter off balance. The crowd gasped, witnessing techniques they had only heard about in stories, moves that combined speed, power, and impeccable timing. Chuck's legendary roundhouse kick sliced through the air with breathtaking speed, narrowly missing Kenji, but sending a clear message. This was a master at work. His counters were subtle yet devastating, designed to exploit openings with surgical precision rather than brute force. Kenji struggled to keep pace, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and urgency. Each technique Chuck displayed was a reminder that true mastery was more than flashy moves. It was the ability to read an opponent's intent, to anticipate and neutralize before a strike could land. The dojo was electric with energy as Chuck's moves unfolded like a living demonstration of martial arts history and innovation. The crowd leaned forward, captivated by the artistry and power on display. For Kenji, it was a humbling lesson and a source of inspiration. The legendary techniques weren't just about fighting. They were about respect, discipline, and the endless pursuit of excellence. As Chuck's strikes continued to weave a tapestry of skill and control, it became clear that this was more than a fight. It was a passing of knowledge, a battle that honored the past while challenging the future. In every measured move, Chuck Norris revealed why he was a legend, not just in stories, but here and now, in the heart of the dojo. The energy in the dojo shifted subtly as Kenji's fierce attacks met Chuck's calm mastery. With every expertly executed technique Chuck displayed, the younger fighter's initial arrogance softened, replaced by a growing sense of respect. The fight had evolved from a challenge of wills into a mutual recognition of skill and dedication. Kenji's breathing steadied, his eyes no longer blazing with reckless confidence, but reflecting a deeper understanding. Each block and counter from Chuck was not just a defense, but a lesson, an unspoken communication of centuries of tradition and discipline. The crowd sensed the change as well. Whispers turned into nods of approval, and the tension that had crackled moments before mellowed into admiration. What began as a contest for dominance was becoming a shared journey toward honor. Kenji paused briefly, wiping sweat from his brow, and met Chuck's steady gaze. In that look was an unspoken acknowledgement, a silent promise that he was no longer just fighting to prove himself, but fighting to learn and grow. Chuck responded with a slight nod, a gesture of respect that carried more weight than any words could. It was a recognition of Kenji's spirit, his determination, and his willingness to face the challenge with honor. The dojo seemed to breathe with them, the atmosphere charged with a newfound camaraderie. The battle was far from over, but the foundation of respect had been laid, an essential pillar in the art of combat and the spirit of martial arts. Kenji's strikes grew more measured, his movements thoughtful rather than impulsive. He adapted, listened, and responded to Chuck's rhythm, showing that respect was not weakness, but strength forged through humility. In this moment, the fight transcended physical prowess. It became a powerful reminder that true martial artists seek not just victory, but understanding, honor, and respect for their opponents, their art, and themselves. As the duel continued, respect blossomed between the two warriors, a quiet force as powerful as any strike or kick. Kenji's movements slowed slightly as the fight wore on, his breathing heavy but steady. The early rush of adrenaline had settled into something deeper, a focused calm he hadn't expected to find in the heat of battle. With each exchange, Chuck's quiet strength and measured technique began to teach him lessons beyond mere combat. In the middle of a swift combination, Chuck effortlessly deflected Kenji's strikes, then gently guided his opponent off balance with a subtle shift of weight. It was not a show of dominance, but a demonstration of control, a reminder that power was most effective when paired with finesse and awareness. Kenji stumbled, briefly caught off guard by the grace behind Chuck's moves. Instead of frustration, a spark of curiosity ignited within him. Here was a master who fought not just with fists, but with wisdom, whose every action seemed to carry meaning beyond the fight itself. The crowd watched in silent awe as Kenji adjusted, beginning to mirror Chuck's measured breathing and controlled stance. His attacks grew less frantic, more thoughtful, as he absorbed the unspoken lesson. Martial arts was not only about strength or speed, but about respect for one's opponent and the discipline to temper aggression with patience. Chuck's eyes held a quiet encouragement, acknowledging Kenji's growing understanding without a single word. It was a passing of knowledge through action, a reminder that true mastery was as much about the mind as the body. Kenji's shoulders relaxed just a fraction, his fists unclenching slightly. He realized this battle was shaping him, breaking down his arrogance and building something stronger in its place. It was a lesson he hadn't expected, but one he welcomed wholeheartedly. As the duel continued, the atmosphere shifted. The fight became less about proving dominance and more about shared growth, a dance of learning between teacher and student, even if unspoken. In that unexpected moment, Kenji discovered the deeper heart of martial arts: humility, patience, and the courage to learn even when standing face to face with a legend. The rhythm of the fight began to change. Kenji's movements grew more deliberate, his strikes measured rather than frantic. The spark of understanding kindled in the previous moments now blossomed into something stronger, a newfound clarity in both mind and body. Chuck watched intently, recognizing the subtle shift in his young opponent. No longer was Kenji fighting merely to prove himself. He was fighting to learn, to adapt, and to grow. The energy between them softened, a mutual respect emerging amidst the tension. With a sudden burst, Kenji launched a precise strike aimed at Chuck's ribs. This time, Chuck didn't just block or evade. He absorbed the attack, using the momentum to gently off-balance Kenji, guiding him into a controlled fall. The move was flawless, executed with the grace of a master, yet it carried no malice. Kenji hit the floor, but rose quickly, his eyes meeting Chuck's with a mix of surprise and respect. The crowd gasped, sensing the significance of the moment. It wasn't a defeat, but a lesson, one that Kenji accepted with humility. The turning point had arrived. What began as a contest of power and pride had evolved into a profound exchange of wisdom and spirit. Kenji's earlier arrogance gave way to the quiet strength that comes from true understanding. As they circled again, Kenji's stance was different, calmer, more balanced. His attacks were thoughtful, his defense sharper, and his heart steadier. The duel had transformed from a battle of dominance into a shared journey, where both fighters pushed each other toward greater mastery. Chuck's expression softened slightly, a nod of approval acknowledging Kenji's growth. The crowd sensed the shift, their cheers rising in appreciation not just for the physical display, but for the story unfolding before them. In that moment, the fight transcended competition. It became a testament to the true essence of martial arts, a path of discipline, respect, and continual growth. The turning point was more than a move. It was a transformation that would resonate far beyond the dojo walls. The air between them grew lighter, charged with a new energy, one born not of rivalry, but of mutual recognition. Kenji and Chuck faced each other once more, eyes meeting not as adversaries, but as warriors who had shared a profound journey. Kenji's breath was steady, his posture relaxed yet poised. The fire that had driven his challenge had softened into a steady flame of respect. He saw in Chuck not just a formidable opponent, but a mentor whose experience had guided him through the heat of battle. Chuck's gaze held warmth beneath its usual intensity, acknowledging the growth he had witnessed. Without a word, he nodded, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. It was an unspoken agreement. They were equals in the art, each having earned the other's respect through skill, heart, and honor. The crowd sensed a shift immediately. The atmosphere, once taut with tension, now hummed with admiration. Spectators whispered among themselves, witnessing something rare, a moment where competition gave way to connection. Kenji stepped forward, lowering his guard slightly in a show of trust. Chuck responded in kind, their movements becoming less about attack and defense and more about shared rhythm and understanding. It was as if the fight had become a dialogue, each action a sentence in a conversation between two masters of their craft. In that space, age and experience blended with youth and ambition. The dojo felt alive with the spirit of martial arts, not just as a means of combat, but as a path to self-discovery and mutual growth. For Kenji, the journey had transformed from a quest to prove himself into an opportunity to learn and honor a tradition much larger than any single victory. For Chuck, it was a reaffirmation of the legacy he carried and the importance of passing knowledge forward. Their mutual recognition was the heart of the battle, a quiet victory that transcended the physical fight and left an indelible mark on both men and everyone watching. The final moments of their duel unfolded with a grace that captured the attention of everyone present. Kenji and Chuck moved with purpose, their strikes and counters no longer fueled by desperation or bravado, but by a shared understanding of the art they both respected deeply. Kenji launched a measured jab, swift and precise, testing Chuck's defense one last time. Chuck met the strike with a calm block, his eyes never leaving Kenji's. The crowd held its breath as the two circled briefly, their movements fluid and controlled. Without warning, Chuck executed a seamless combination, a palm strike followed by a low sweep. Kenji anticipated the move and countered with a quick pivot, narrowly avoiding the sweep while maintaining his balance. Their eyes locked in mutual acknowledgement, each recognizing the other's skill and heart. The dojo seemed to fade away as the two warriors exchanged a series of strikes and counters, a final dance of mastery and respect. Every movement was precise, every gesture intentional. There was no need for theatrics, only the pure expression of martial arts at its highest level. Kenji's breath was steady now, his movements sharp and deliberate. Chuck's experience guided him through each exchange with a quiet confidence, a testament to decades of discipline and dedication. As the final strike was delivered, a controlled, respectful tap, both men stepped back simultaneously, lowering their hands. The tension that had gripped the room dissolved into a profound silence filled with respect and admiration. The crowd erupted in applause, not for a victor in the traditional sense, but for the extraordinary display of skill, honor, and mutual respect. Kenji and Chuck bowed deeply to each other, a gesture sealing their bond as warriors and teachers. In that final exchange, the fight reached its true conclusion, not with dominance, but with dignity. It was a testament to the enduring spirit of martial arts, where every battle is also a lesson, and every opponent is a path to growth. The dojo, the crowd, and the two fighters themselves were forever changed by that moment, a lasting symbol of respect and the true heart of combat. The echoes of applause still hung in the air as Kenji and Chuck stood side by side, their breaths slowing and eyes meeting with a profound sense of connection. What had begun as a fierce competition had blossomed into a bond that transcended age, nationality, and style, a true brotherhood forged through shared respect and understanding. In the quiet moments after the duel, the dojo felt alive with a different energy, one of unity rather than rivalry. The two warriors exchanged a knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had traveled together. It was a recognition that martial arts was more than fighting. It was a lifelong path of growth, discipline, and mutual support. Kenji reached out first, offering his hand in a gesture of respect. Chuck accepted it with a firm grip, their hands clasping in a bond that symbolized the spirit of their art. The crowd watched, moved by the display, witnessing how competition had given way to camaraderie. Words were few but meaningful. Chuck's voice, calm and steady, spoke of tradition, honor, and the responsibility of passing knowledge forward. Kenji listened intently, absorbing the wisdom not just of technique, but of humility and respect for those who come before and after. Around them, the spectators felt the weight of the moment. This was more than a fight. It was a celebration of martial arts as a community, a shared culture that connects warriors across generations and borders. The dojo master stepped forward, bowing deeply to both fighters. His eyes shone with pride, knowing that this moment embodied the true spirit of the discipline he had dedicated his life to teaching. As Kenji and Chuck prepared to leave the mat, their footsteps side by side echoed with a promise to honor the art, to support one another, and to continue growing together as brothers in martial arts. The bond they forged that day was unbreakable, a testament to the power of respect, discipline, and the enduring legacy of warriors united not by conflict, but by brotherhood. The dojo was quiet now, the echoes of the battle slowly fading into memory. Yet the energy that lingered was profound, a testament to what had transpired between two warriors bound by respect and tradition. Kenji stood alone for a moment, absorbing the weight of the experience. What had begun as a challenge fueled by youthful pride had transformed into a deeper understanding of what it truly meant to be a martial artist. The lessons learned that day would shape not only his skills, but his spirit for years to come. Chuck Norris prepared to leave the dojo, his presence calm and steady as always. Around him was an aura of legacy, one built through decades of dedication, discipline, and unwavering commitment to the art. He was more than a fighter. He was a living symbol of honor passed down through generations. As they parted ways, there was no need for grand farewells. The bond forged in the heat of combat spoke louder than words. Kenji carried with him the quiet strength of the encounter, a renewed dedication to the path he had chosen. Chuck, in turn, continued his journey knowing that the art he loved would endure through warriors like Kenji. The spectators remained, quietly reflecting on the profound display they had witnessed. It was more than a fight. It was a legacy honored, a bridge between past and future, tradition and innovation, teacher and student. In the days that followed, stories of the duel spread beyond the dojo walls. It became a symbol of martial arts at its best, where strength is tempered by respect and victories are measured not just in points, but in growth and honor. Kenji's journey was just beginning, but the lessons of that day would guide him always. Chuck's legacy remained vibrant, carried forward in the hearts of those who embraced the true spirit of martial arts. Together, they had written a chapter in the enduring story of combat and camaraderie, a legacy honored, a path illuminated for all who seek to walk it with courage and humility.